Alright, what's going on, y'all? So in today's video, we are going to be looking at my rental teams that I have prepared for you guys for you to be able to use for the rest of Regulation D, which is now getting down to only about a month left. So, we are reaching into the last month of Regulation D, but we put together quite a few really fun teams over the course of the first 2 months, and mostly that's what we have compiled here. But I wanted to make this video to share those teams with you guys. I know people who have been watching the channel for the past month or so have probably seen quite a few of these teams, so shout outs to our viewers, right? But for those of you who don't see every video, I know these videos are very useful, and it's just nice to have the teams compiled anyways in this way. So thank you all for tuning in. Consider leaving a comment on the video. Let me know what your favorite team is. Consider leaving a subscribe if you are not already. Help grow the channel. We're so close to 750 subs, and we definitely appreciate y'all. So just keep tuning back in, see the battle content, get the cool teams, listen to the good background Spyro music like we got today. But let's talk about this team. So first and foremost, I do want to say that this Tinkaton Sneasler Grafai team was actually co-built. So I reached out to one of my friends, XCZachX20, who also has their own YouTube channel, and you should definitely check out their channel as well. I will link anybody's channels in the description if I built teams with them for this video. Or that are just being featured in this rental team compilation, right? But so, I reached out to my fellow content creator friend XCZachX20, and I said, yo, I've got this idea for a Swagger plus Sneasler team. And I don't quite remember if I was thinking about putting all three of the Sneasler Grafai Tinkaton together originally, but, well, okay, so actually, originally it was just Grafai and Tinkaton, right? And I was thinking about pairing a Mirror Herb Explosion Pokemon with them as the other guy. And it just turned out that later in testing, Explosion Guard with Mirror Herb was definitely not better than Sneasler ended up being. So it's this just inherently ended up making sense. But originally, I reached out to Zach. I said, I want to build a Swagger plus Tinkaton team. Let's make some sauce, my guy. And we went through a couple iterations, right? We thought about Swagger Thunderous, we thought about Swagger Grimmsnarl, I think. And the real reason why I wanted to do Grafai was, originally I had also been thinking about Slaking and Ghost Terra Grafai paired with Explosion. But Grafai does also have the Encore, which we see on this team, right? And Grafai is a very special prankster Pokemon for that, because it gets Encore and it gets Swagger. And the combination of both of those allows Grafai to be a setup threat that also punishes your opponent for trying to stop you from setting up. So, you get really great use out of that, right? You can Swagger your own Tinkaton because you have own tempo, so you can raise your attack by 2 without getting confused. You can Swagger the opponent, and then get the Mirror Herb on Sneasler activated, and then outspeed most things, even in Tailwind, unless they're Scarf, or a Speed Boost or Flutter Mane, And if they try to lead something like Fake Out to deal with that, right? You can Encore them into the Fake Out next turn, or you can Encore them into their Tailwind. You can you know what I mean? You can Encore them into their Trick Room. Cozy Cowgirl, in her video where she used the team, pulled off an Encore Trick Room, where you force the Cresselia to use Trick Room in the middle of the next turn, because when you Encore them into it, it happens in the normal speed bracket. So he Trick Rooms halfway through the turn, Psych Sneasler's fast again. And then Sneasler, that was a great turn, though. When Cozy Cowgirl pulled that off, I was like, nice. And she didn't know that's what was going to happen too. But, you know, definitely shoutouts to everyone who has tried this team so far. Pokesports, Jeans, Cozy Cowgirl. Our good friend Gigawatts was actually the very first to try this team on their channel. So shoutouts to Gigawatts as well. We've got some real spice coming in a few days with Giga as well. Once I get that rental team made. So just to wrap up talking about this team, the Scarf Urshifu with Grass Terra is just, it's currently my favorite Urshifu. Like, I get that Water Terra hits harder, but Grass Terra is really good for avoiding super effective hits from Electric, while also avoiding redirection from things like Amoonguss. So I just personally find that Choice Scarf Grass Terra is good, and most Flutter Mains are not EV trained to live the Surging Strikes anyways when you're Adamant Urshifu. So it's like, doesn't really matter, honestly. We're pretty fine with this. There's a reason why I like this set, right? Mirror Herb, Sneasler, Flying Terra, Dire Claw, Acrobatics, Close Combat, Fake Out. Really, I just think that the fast Fake Out is really important, because while you do have Fake Out with Tinkaton, you know, Tinkaton is going to underspeed a lot of other Fake Out users, like certain Rillabooms, you know. So just having that fast Fake Out option is really nice in a lot of scenarios, but it does mean this team actually has no Protect. So that is the one thing that I have been warning people about with this team, is that you need to play this team with the knowledge in mind that nothing can Protect. Like, this is an aggressive team. You need to have your good switches available. You need to have your board state. But this team can really do a lot, and it's really fun to play with. So, Citrus Berry Tornadus, because we have Covert Cloak for Grafii. The Citrus Berry is actually really nice on Torn. People never fake it out anyways, because they expect it to have the Covert Cloak. And even if they do, I'll just Encore them, right? We have Rain Dance, Tailwind, Taunt, Bleak Windstorm. I think you could drop Rain Dance for Protect, but the Rain Dance is nice to pair with Urshifu, right? Covert Cloak, Dark Terra Grafii, so if you do need to avoid getting taunted, you can do that. If you do need Stab Knockoff, you can do that. So I have found that the Stab Knockoff usually does not KO things like Goldango and Indeedee, but it is really solid damage, and so is Gunk Shot, so you know, you actually have to look out for this Grafii. Like, it'll punch, you know. And it's a great support mon. It's honestly like one of my favorite support mons I've used in a really long time. Tinkaton with the Assault Vest, Gigaton Hammer, Play Rough, Fake Out, Feint. I do think that Ice Hammer is extremely good. I think I would probably click Ice Hammer more than I click Feint. But that being said, Feint as a priority move in itself, it's basically Quick Attack that can break a Protect, right? So, like, sometimes that is actually really useful. And, like, not that, I mean, you know, the people who have used my team have played amazingly, right? But you can actually look at some of their matches for examples of times when, well, what if he did go for Feint there? What if he did go for, you know, the Choice Scarf Rock Slide instead of the Surging Strikes? And so, like, you know, you can actually see how there are instances where it makes a difference, right? Like, I think there was a match where with Jeans using this team, where if he had gone for the Feint Surging Strikes into the Landorus that Flying Terra'd, it would have gotten the KO. But it wouldn't have guaranteed a win, it just would have made the endgame more interesting, right? And then there was a match where Pokesports used the team today, and interestingly enough, locking into Rock Slide might have won the endgame, but it also would have necessitated the Indeedee not clicking. Like, if the Indeedee just clicked Trick Room and didn't get flinched, you know, that would be bad, right? So there's always things to take in mind, right? But this team has a lot of really interesting options, and then rounding it off, you do have that Trick Room Imprison Fluter main to do fun stuff. So, really fun team. Definitely give it a try. And we're going to try to just keep it moving because we have a lot to talk about today. A lot of these teams do use pretty standard Pokemon, you might say, to some degree. You know, we're going to see Fluttermanes, we're going to see Rillabooms, Urshifus, Tornaduses. They're good Pokemon. You know, I tried to build good teams, you know. Some of them are standard, some of them have silly things, but, you know, all in all, I wanted them to be teams that can get results, right? So, going on to our second team, this is the updated Assault Vest Muck team. So, Assault Vest Muck with Poison Jab, Stone Edge, Ice Punch, and Knockoff. I do think sometimes you could maybe drop Stone Edge for Drain Punch, but, you know, I found this set to be really nice. The Stone Edge just does quite a bit of damage to things like Thundurus, and that can be really nice. Tornadus, standard Tornadus again, Rain Dance, Tailwind, Taunt, Leap and Storm. This one has Covert Cloak. Now I switched my Basculegion, so this Basculegion used to be a Grass Terra adaptability Basculegion. Now we have Swift Swim Water Terra, and that is really useful, particularly into things like Flutterfish, where I can just click like Rain Dance, Water Terra, Wavecraft. Sorry, I have hiccups. You know, and then you just guarantee a KO onto one of them, usually Fluttermane, right? But so it helps with that a lot. And if you don't have that, like the Water Terra adaptability Aqua Jet can KO a Fluttermane guaranteed in Rain Dance, but if you have Grass Terra, it's not a guaranteed KO, so you just need to be careful if you are using an adaptability set, and that's ultimately why I wanted the Swift Swim. I like the interplay. I like how with Tailwind and Rain Dance, like, it makes it even scarier. And going on after that, we have a Booster Energy Fluter with Trick Room and no Imprison. So this team actually really likes Trick Room. This team has two main modes, you might say, and that would be like Torn plus, you know, Flutter, Champal, Bat. I mean, really anything, right? Like, this team can do well in Tailwind, even if I bring Rillaboom or Muck, right? So, like, Tailwind, good option. If my opponent has Tailwind, there's a really good chance that I'm just going to lead Fluttermane and fake out the thing that doesn't use Tailwind and then click Trick Room. So that they click Tailwind, they get nothing else out of the turn, and then I click Trick Room, and then I have Fluttermane and Rillaboom on the field, and they have Tailwind, and I have Trick Room. So, I actually think that Trick Room, and then utilizing Rillaboom, Muck, and Basculegion is one of the stronger ways to use this team, and I've gotten a lot of really strong wins that way. So, because we have the Assault Vest Muck, we do have the Citrus Berry Rillaboom. I will say that one adaptation that I did think about with this team was going back to Assault Vest Rillaboom and then having a Gluttony Muck with Agua Berry and Protect over Stone Edge. But the Poison Touch, Poison Jab is like, it just poisons all the time. Like, it's really nice. So, I don't know. There's a lot of give and take. And, like, the Assault Vest is honestly really good for walling certain things. So, I really like it. Lastly, we have that Champal with the Ghost Terra. This is an extremely standard Champal, right? Like, and personally, I like Ice Spinner over Ice Skull Crash because, you know what? I just don't want to miss. I know Rocky Helmet is a thing, but I have answers, you know what I mean? So, this is a really fun team. Also consider checking it out. This team has actually gotten us really high ranks in the past. You know, we have, you know, top 300 with this team, etc. So, it's fun. Third team is the updated Regidrago for Rigorath team. This is my favorite Regulation D team that I've made. I love this team. We originally just had Thundurus over Tornadus, and that made the team slightly suboptimal at times when we actually did want to lean into a fast mode, which sometimes this team does want to do. So, you know, having Tornadus just gives you a little bit more options, but even before we had Tornadus, like, one of the most insane leads this team has is just Farigiraf Mousehold, because if your opponent starts something like, let's say they start Mystic Water Urshifu plus Tornadus, you know, and I lead Farigiraf Mousehold, you know, they don't want to click Tailwind because I have Trick Room Pressure, right? But Mousehold is faster than everything on their side of the field. So that means I get a free Pop Bomb KO on Urshifu if it doesn't protect, on Tornadus if I need it, and then I just click Trick Room and I can bring out Rillaboom to sweep. And I originally had a slow Urshifu on the team. I actually think that could be good to go back to help lean into the slow mode of the team a little bit more. But I actually think now that we have Tornadus, like, I find myself clicking Tailwind a lot more than going for Trick Room. And while you don't use Mousehold as much when you're going for the Tailwind option, it's still, like, people have completely forgot about Mousehold, but, like, especially Normal Terra Mousehold. Normal Terra Mousehold, Oko's Iron Hands, Oko's Ursaluna, Oko's sometimes Cresselia if you get a crit or they don't have too much defensive bulk. Like, this thing is disgusting. Like, watching Mousehold take out your opponent's biggest threats in one hit is like, oh, right, well, no more Urshifu, no, no more Chiyu, no more Tornadus, okay, like, bye-bye. So, I love the way that Mousehold functions on this team, and we do now have the Steel Terra Regidraco, so, you know, shoutouts to the person who wanted that Steel Terra Regidraco, now we have it. It does do less damage than Dragon Terra, Dragon Energy. You're not going to just literally decimate everything on your opponent's side of the field, but the trade-off is that you can still decimate the other side of the field in a good board position and or with Helping Hand. And now Regidraco plays like a real Pokemon, right? Where it doesn't just get walled by fairies. Like, I can click Dragon Energy, but I can also lock into Earth Power or Terra Blast. And I really like that. We do have the same Farigiraf that I was originally using with the Psychic, Hyper Voice, Trick Room, Dazzling Gleam. I know Imprisoned Trick Room Farigiraf is extremely strong right now, especially because it is really good at countering, what's it really good at countering? It's really good at countering Fluttermane, right? Because it has Dazzling Gleam imprisoned, and so, like, it can't get hit by Shadow Ball, it can't get hit by Dazzling Gleam because it's imprisoned, and so you do have that synergy. But I find that in general, because I updated this Farigiraf to actually function decently well in Tailwind, like, sometimes I can actually just click Farigiraf Tornadus and lead Tailwind Hyper Voice, and, like, it's kind of stumped, you know what I mean? Like, Tailwind Hyper Voice, get this Throat Spray, do really big damage with Farigiraf, bring out Regidraco, bring out Mousehold, bring out Urshifu. We just wipe things off the field, my guy. That's the plan. You just wipe things off the field. And not to mention, I'd like to say that I was one of the first people to really start exploring Farigiraf in Regulation D. This was, like, literally my first Regulation D team. Can I just say that? Like, I literally made this team way back, and even though we had Thundurus, you know, we were wrecking people. And I knew it needed a little bit of an adjustment, but we saw the results. And largely it was because people now know Farigiraf is cracked. This thing is good, man. You can't sleep on it. So, really fun team. Definitely consider giving it a try. Again, common leads, Farigiraf Mousehold, Torn plus anything, Farigiraf Rillaboom, Farigiraf, yeah. Farigiraf. Going on to our fourth team, so now we have another collaboration team. This team was built in part with my good friend Gudra VGC, who is also good friends with XC Zach, so, you know, we got ourselves a real nice little tight-knit small content creator circle going here between, you know, we got me, we got XCZackX20, we got Goodra VGC, we got Gigawatts, Andila VGC, we got Winter Knight, we got, what's Remo's channel called again? Pokemon Advice VGC. You know, all these good, small-time content creators that are all friends. Do you ever thank us, my guy? Do you thank us for doing the groundwork to keeping small-time Pokemon alive? Thank us by giving some like and subscribe. Help us grow. We go from small time to big time. With your help. With your help. And we appreciate y'all. So, yeah, you know, it's a process. But talking about the team, we have got this offensive Goodra team built with our good friend Goodra VGC, where me and Goodra just were kind of thinking, you know, obviously you like Goodra, right? And then Goodra was like, Kanto, let's build an offensive Goodra team. We gotta pay homage to my NAIC team, because Goodra brought a Goodra, like a, you know, normal Goodra, to NAIC, and did, you know, decently well. You know, it was a good run. So we want to pay homage to that, and we built this Goodra team. And there was a few adjustments that ended up coming a little bit later in the team just to deal with some of the problems that the team has. But, like, inherently speaking, this is a very good team synergistically, right? Like, all these Pokemon are very strong, they function very well together, and they create immense threats that your opponent really needs to respect, you know? And so, you know, mostly that's in the realm of the core of Grimmsnarl, Moltres, Amoonguss, Goodra. Grimmsnarl, Moltres, Amoonguss, Goodra is actually an amazing core because of the amount of bulk and then the amount of setup plus damage threat that it has plus positioning ability. So, with Parting Shot, with Rage Powder, with Pollen Puff, with Spore, Clear Smog, with all this amazing support that we have from Amoonguss and Grimmsnarl, we can really get our Moltres set up, which is honestly, Moltres is like the Iron Hands of not being Iron Hands. You know what I mean? Like, this thing just lives so many more hits than you ever expect it to. And then it says, but what about those boosts, though? What about those Berserk boosts, though? So, I would say the thing that Moltres does really well that we don't see Iron Hands doing as much is actually leaning into its setup, right? Like, Iron Hands is a good Swords Dance user. It's not optimal. Like, there's really just so many instances where Assault Vest Iron Hands is insanely good for the amount of bulk and already having a good enough damage output, right? And Moltres, while it's not even really usually run as that much faster than an Iron Hands, like, technically it's probably like 1.5 times faster, you know, like, Iron Hands usually sits at around like 70 base speed if you are like a neutral nature, and Moltres sits around like 115, 106, you know, depending on your speed investment, right? But I have mine at like 115 just because I think that's like a pretty decent number. And then, you know, we got the setup, right? So, Moltres is an amazing Nasty Plot user. Like, it'll tank those hits, it'll bulk up, it'll power up, and then it'll really dish that power out, right? The one thing that I did point out to Goodra after we made the team was, hey, I think this team looks like it's going to struggle quite a lot versus a well-positioned Amoonguss. And so we had to ultimately end up making just one or two adaptations to the team to make sure that this team didn't just get steamrolled by an Amoonguss. Because, like, if you really look at the team, it actually doesn't have really strong immediate pressure on an Amoonguss, right? Like, I don't have Taunt, I don't have, you know, Specs Ice Beam or something crazy like that. Like, Hurricane's not going to one-shot them. And so what we actually ended up needing to do is say, hey, look, like, Sap Sipper Goodra, actually kind of good. Grass Terra Fluttermane, maybe kind of a move. I don't know, my guy. So those were the two options that I decided I thought would be really good adjustments to the team to make sure that our team just didn't lose immediately to things like a Moongus, right? So I really like the way this team turned out. It is very threatening. And we actually have an Assault Vest Urshifu. So originally, Goodra wanted just a slow, bulky Urshifu. And that's fine, you know. Slow, bulky Urshifu can be really good, especially on a team like this. It's just my slow Urshifu that I had ready to make this team was an Assault Vest Urshifu. Like, when you look at its IVs, like, if you use this team and you click on this Urshifu and you look at its EVs and, like, its stats, you'll be like, yeah, Assault Vest, right? Like, you should never be using that thing if it doesn't have an Assault Vest. So, like, yeah, this is an Assault Vest Urshifu. It functions extremely, extremely well as an Assault Vest Urshifu. And while you're probably not going to be living everything that you want to outside of the screens, like a really strong Moonblast, for example, without tearing, you know, the screens plus the Assault Vest makes a huge difference, and it's definitely something to keep in mind. So, big shoutouts to our friend Goodra VGC for helping build this team. Check out his channel for sure. And, you know, common leads. I think this team is really diverse. I think there's a lot of really different leads, and we definitely saw that when we used this team, right? Like, I led Grimmsnarl Amoongus one game. I led, I don't know, I don't remember. Grim Moltres, Grim Goodra, Amoongus Moltres, Amoongus Goodra, Grim Urshifu, like, Amoongus Fluttermane. I'm not gonna just sit here and list random combos, right? But, like, in general, you know, I think sometimes I just forget to talk about how, like, the team has good switch outs and, like, what are the good leads, because, like, this is gonna be a long video, right? And, like, in general, I want to talk about why the team functions well together, and a lot of the times I end up forgetting to talk about, like, these specific leads and why, these specific switch outs and why. And, like, you know, you have Goodra as a really good switch out for Moltres, you have Amoongus as a really good switch out for Moltres, you have Amoongus as a really good switch out for Urshifu, you have Grimmsnarl as a really good switch out for Goodra and Urshifu at times, you know, things like that. Grimmsnarl as a switch out for, I don't know. We just play Pokemon, okay? But definitely try the team. I really like this team. And, man, we are hitting you guys with heat, man. We are team after team, just fire, fire, fire. Pure fire, okay? This team, this fifth team, is my Orthworm Ursaluna Armorogue team that I got top 4 in the Tommy Tuesday tour a few weeks ago with. I do think I could have won that tour if I had played my matches versus Bubs a little bit better, but, you know, like, if you want to see what happened, you can go watch that, right? It's in a live stream, so you'd have to go check out my live streams. But in general, the idea with this team is we have the Rocky Helmet and Didi to deal with things like Champao and Urshifu, which would put on the most immediate pressure to stopping me from getting my Tripper. And, like, besides that, one of the scariest leads for this team is Fluttermane Chiyu, just because we have to really, like, it creates so many options, right? Like, do I click Wide Guard Trick Room? Do I click Follow Me Trick Room? Do I click Terra Armorogue Follow Me Trick Room? Do I click Terra and Didi Follow Me Trick? You know, like, Chiyu Fluttermane creates the biggest mind game, and in best of 3, there's ways to really force your opponent to make the wrong decision by thinking that I'm always just going to click Follow Me or whatever, right? And that was actually how I could have won my top 4 versus Bubs if I just brought better back Pokemon, or made a better turn 1 in game 3, right? So, this team, amazingly strong. a lot of the time you are going to be leading Indeedee Orthworm, Indeedee Armorogue. Those are the two most common leads on this team. Indeedee Orthworm, Shed Tail out into something while trying to set up Trick Room, or just clicking Follow Me if you really need to, or leading Indeedee Armorogue and then clicking some combination of, Wide Guard Trick Room, Follow Me Trick Room, Follow Me Expanding Force, whatever the board sees fit, right? There's really a lot that can happen, like, especially if your opponent's gonna try to hard swap in a Rillaboom to take away your grassy terrain. Like, you just click Heat Wave. it's like there's so many ways to counter what your opponent wants to do. It's insane. Like, you click Follow Me, you get them to break their Sash with Rocky Helmet, they take out Indeedee, you get the Trick Room with Armorogue, you bring out Enamorus, you have Dazzling Gleam plus Expanding Force pressure, and there's nothing that runs a Sash right now between Chien-Pao, Urshifu, whatever, that is actually living the combo of Dazzling Gleam, Expanding Force, unless they have some crazy Terra and crazy bulk, you know what I mean? But really fun synergy there, and the Urshifu really just helps to clean up some of the more ugly matchups, because there is going to be times where you're, not in Trick Room anymore, and you need something fast that hits hard. There's going to be times where you see that your opponent has something really threatening, potentially like Flutter Mane Chi, and you say to yourself, well, hey, if I can call who they're going to Terra right now, and or Flutter Mane doesn't have Water Terra, like, I can very safely just click Surging Strikes into one of these, get a KO, guarantee my Trick Room, and then start setting up for the late game, right? We also want to point out that this team is very anti-Amoonguss, right? So we have Grass Terra Urshifu, again, to deal with Amoonguss. Grass Terra Armorogue to deal with Amoonguss. We have Overcoat, Enamorus, which can't be Spored. I don't remember if it can be Rage Powdered. And then we have the Guts, Flame Orb, Burst Luna, right? So we can pretty much always create a game state where we have 3 Pokemon that can't be Spored, And not only that, you have Shed Tail, right? So, like, if I really need to, I can start Armorogue Orthworm, and I can click Grass Terra, Armorogue, Shed Tail into Urshifu. Urshifu can't be Spored because it's behind a sub, And so, like, there's a lot of really cool interplay that this team can do. This is easily one of my best teams that you could try. So, like, I really do suggest trying this team. The Regidraco team is extremely scary, but, like, if I had to... Dude, pitting those two teams against each other would be so fun. Someone do it. Somebody do it. Okay, so moving on, definitely do consider trying this team, and thank you to those of you who support the channel. I just want to say that again. Going on to our 6th team is another team that I built with XC Zach X20, and this team is actually hosted on Zach's game. So you can see Zach's name up on the top. Big shouts to Zach again. Me and Zach wanted to not only build that Tinkaton team, but we also wanted to build a Scarf Torkoal team, because Zach got wrecked by Scarf Torkoal one time in his live stream, and we were like, wait, what? So we wanted to try to build our own Scarf Torkoal team, and I think it ended up pretty good. I'm not very good at piloting this team myself, I'm gonna be honest, but I've gotten really solid wins with this team. I've seen Zach pilot this team to amazing success, and yeah, like, while I'm not amazing with this team, I do know it can do a lot. So common ways to use the team are going to be doing things like starting Torn Urshifu, Torn Flutter Mane, clicking Tailwind, getting set up, and then having the Scarf Torkoal plus the Lilligant in the back, or like, something else, right? But once you have the Tailwind activated, the Scarf Torkoal is an amazing threat, because, like, honestly, Torkoal, not that fast. Like, even with the Scarf, you're only hitting, like, maybe 310 speed, especially since we're running Modest instead of, like, Speed Nature. So you really do need that Tailwind if you want to do things like be faster than a Regieleki or a Speed Booster Fluttermane. So, you know, you're not going to outspeed them in Tailwind, of course, but this Torkoal has the ability to really catch people off guard, and of course setting up the drought for Fluttermane is great, setting up the drought for Lilligant is great. You know, the after use sleep powders can, the after use and the sleep powders can really come in clutch, and so can Indeedee. I have found the Indeedee a little hard to use on this team, but I have seen Zach use it very well. I know it can function very well on the team. You know, I mean, it's Indeedee Torkoal, right? Like, follow me. Eruption. What more could you ask for? So, like, inherently speaking, the Indeedee has the ability to function very well on this team just because it's a redirector. It has Rocky Helmet, bulky, Water Terra, Rocky Helmet Indeedee is amazing right now with Psychic Surge. It's got the works, right? Like, there's a reason why Indeedee's good right now. And I just don't think this team is slow enough for me to want to go for it a lot of the time because, like, I'm not clicking Trick Room, right? Like, if I'm clicking Trick Room, it's because I'm trying to stop my opponent from having Trick Room, or because I really think I'm going to be able to get away with it, because, like, they're dumb enough to click Tailwind in front of my Indeedee, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much a redirector, in my opinion, but it can do that very well, and, yeah, so, you know, fun stuff. Definitely shouts to Zach for building that team with me. And we are going to have to hop over to the boxes to look at the last few teams. So my last 5 teams are on my Scarlet version, and we're going to try to jump through them very quickly, but this, my last 5 teams are actually, I would say, a bit more standard. You know, they're built with just really reliable Pokemon. Like, you look at this team and every one of these Pokemon is good, you know? There's no Sneasler, there's no Goodra, you know, this is just a Heatran, Amoonguss, Tornadus, Landorus, Urshifu, Iron Hands. Like, all good Pokemon. This is definitely something you would see at a tournament and be like, oh, okay. And, I mean, some people are pointing out that Heatran, Iron Hands teams don't always perform very well in best of 3s, and I did kind of see that when I tried using this team in the last Tommy's tour. Like, there was times where it didn't feel amazing, but I didn't get enough practice in that tour to actually be able to tell, you know, and on ladder, this team has been doing great, you know. I haven't lost a match with it yet, basically, you know. So, we do have the leftovers Grass Terra Heatran replacing our Goldengo. The Heatran is amazing for helping to deal with things like Chi-Yu pressure. It's just great resistance against a lot of Pokemon, especially like Fluttermane. And I decided to go for Flash Cannon instead of Earth Power. I do feel like sometimes I regret that decision, but I've never yet come into a situation where I was like, wow, I really, really, really needed that Earth Power. Like, in a 1v1 situation versus Iron Hands, yeah, probably. Like, you probably do need that. But you can hope that the team has ways to play around getting into that position, right? So, yeah, Flash Fire, leftovers, Heatran with Grass Terra, great Pokemon. Flash Fire is definitely one of the best abilities in the face of the Terra format, you know. Grass Terra, Flash Fire, amazing, you know. Especially with the lack of, you know, like, there are ice teams. We, you know, have a really good best of 3 versus snow team with this team. But, you know, in general, there's not much going on right now that's really that good against a Flash Fire Grass Terra Pokemon. But moving on, you know, Amoonguss, Rocky Helmet, very standard. Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, Clear Smog Spore. Tornadus, standard again. This one has Icy Wind instead of Rain Dance because we have a Dark Terra Urshifu. We have Choice Scarf Landorus, which is absolutely amazing. Flying Terra, Terra Blast, Rock Slide, which is what I click most of the time. Stomping Tantrum, and U-Turn. Fifthly, we do have that Black Glasses Urshifu. I do think sometimes that Swords Dance would be a lot better than Close Combat, but when you go up against something like a Ursaluna, knowing that your close combat is almost always a guaranteed one-shot on something like Ursaluna is a really good feeling, you know? You don't get that from Iron Hands. And Iron Hands, I mean, it's weak to Earthquakes, you need to be careful about that. Like, I don't have Sash on Urshifu, so technically I'm probably not, like, living a Guts facade, right? But we have the tools to stop ourselves from ending up in tripling, right? So, like, this is a balanced team for a reason. It's incredibly good at playing positioning games. It's incredibly good at stopping your opponent from getting the board states that they want that can just, like, immediately roll the team like, oh, I couldn't do anything, right? Like, no, this team has options into most things, right? Like, we have Landorus and Tornadus to switch out for ground moves. We have Heatran to switch out for fairy moves. You know, we have Urshifu to switch out for psychic moves. We have Heatran to switch out for ice moves. You know, there's a lot of really good synergy that this team has, and there's a lot of good leads too. Like, Tornadus, Landorus is easily one of the best leads on this team, but obviously you can do things like lead, you know, Tornamungus, Torn Iron Hands. I really like Iron Hands as a lead just because of the fact that it does have the ability to, you know, just put on that fake out pressure and bulk like everything, right? So, amazing team. Definitely consider giving it a try. And let's jump over to the next team. So, this is a Grassy Seed Sneasler team. So this is Grassy Seed Sneasler with the same set as the other one. Life Orb Heatran with Earth Power instead of Flash Cannon. AV Rillaboom. Standard, you know, I really like Water Terra over Fire Terra. Knockoff Woodhammer U-turn Fake Out. I do think Grass Terra Rillaboom can actually be an extreme threat. It's just like, it's kind of blah. Like, we have Choice Band Dragonite with E-Speed, Dragon Tail, Ice Spinner, Stomping Tantrum. I think this is a really good moveset. I know Brick Break is technically good. I know Outrage is amazingly scary. I like Dragon Tail because it's really good into things like Cresselia. And, in fact, I think I did have a game where I just started, like, Rillaboom Dragonite and clicked, like, Woodhammer Dragon Tail and, like, one-shot the other thing, switched out Cresselia, you know, and they literally couldn't do anything. Like, so the Dragon Tail is actually an amazing move. It sucks that you have the Choice Band on it, but, like, I really do like Choice Band Dragonite. I think it's good. Scarf Urshifu, Booster Energy Flutter Mane. This is a Speed Booster Flutter Mane, and it also has Steel Terra. So, really good at trying to avoid getting beat by opposing Goldengos and Flutter Manes by utilizing its Steel Terra. But, you know, one of the other things it does really well is have things like Icy Wind, right? So, like, you can click Icy Wind so that you end up having your Heatran outspeed things or your Dragonite outspeed things. And, you know, honestly, after using Speedy Flutter Mane again, like on that Goodra Moltres team that me and Goodra VGC built, like, I'm sold on Speedy Flutter Mane again. Like, when you know you're going to be the faster Flutter Mane, and you know you're going to outspeed all these big threats in the meta, like, go Flutter, you know? This thing is good. So, really fun team. I do want to keep it moving quickly, so I'm probably not going to talk about this team for very long. But, I just felt like Dragonite and Flutter Mane actually ended up being a really good back options on this team, because the main core is Urshrilla, Sneasler, Heatran, right? Those four Pokemon function amazingly well together. And originally I think I had Iron Bundle over Flutter Mane, and I just felt like it's not always pulling it off. You know, it's just not always doing what I need it to. And Flutter Mane's literally one speed slower, like, and it has Shadow Ball and Moonblast and Icy Wind. So it's kind of like using Iron Bundle, but just not having Iron Bundle because I have other moves that are better. So, yeah, I mean, really strong team. Obviously, Dragonite's a really good switch out for Heatran's threats. Heatran's a really good switch out for Dragonite and Rillaboom's threats. Sneasler's an amazing lead for just kind of snowballing the game. And, you do have to keep that in mind just because, like, your access to speed with this team is speed. You don't have Tailwind. You have Booster Energy Icy Wind. You have Scarf Urshifu. You have Unburdened Sneasler. That's your speed. You have Extreme Speed. That's your speed. You don't have Tailwind, and you need to remember that. And this team can function amazingly well without Tailwind, but I do find that, like, that's kind of why we all love Tornadus right now. Like, yes, you can build a team like this and be like, oh, I have all these speedy options, but, like, sometimes it feels like a good Tornadus team puts so much pressure on something like this that, like, you just need to know how to play. And, you have the stuff to chuff, as I like to say, but you got to make sure you do. You got to bring the right guys. You got to do what you need to do. Going on to our, I guess technically this is the 9th team right now. So we only have 2 teams after this. We have a Hisuian Gudra team that I built a little while ago. So we went through quite a few iterations of this team. We originally, I think, had a Intimidate Hisuian Arcanine. And while I do know that Hisuian Arcanine's good, for this team comp, no. Like, it's too many ground weaknesses, and it just wasn't really doing what I needed it to. So the Rocky Helmet Gyarados is actually a really cool option on this team. The Rocky Helmet makes it a really good switch into things like Urshifu, obviously. The Iron Head allows it to pressure Flutter Mains, even though a lot of people have been switching to Protect in that slot. We have the Steel Terra 2 to make the Iron Head hit even harder. And we have Waterfall, which, so this thing is a flinch bot. It also has Thunder Wave and Taunt. And you do have to remember that, Waterfall and Iron Head both have flinch chances. Some people forget that, but it's the truth. We have the Citrus Berry Rillaboom because we have Assault Vest Iron Hands. Very standard Rillaboom set. I've definitely understand dropping high horsepower for U-Turn. Like, U-Turn is just really good for positioning games. We do have a Life Orb Trick Room Flutter Main to, kind of like, this should remind you of the Basket Legion team a little bit, where it's like, yes, I do technically have fast options with Urshifu, Flutter Main. Gyarados is kind of fast sometimes. My Rillaboom's not, like, underspeeded, like, it's still gonna 206 or whatever, at level 100. But the Trick Room is a very good option. And just like the Basket Legion team, yeah, there's gonna be times where our opponent tries to set up Tailwind, I Trick Room in their face, and I just absolutely wipe them off the field with Rillaboom, Iron Hands, and Gudra, right? But if our opponent does have something like a Moongus, we have Taunt, we have Grass Terra Iron Hands, we have Rillaboom, Grass Terra Urshifu, things like that, right? And then, this is a normal Gudra, in the sense that, like, most of the Hisuian Gudras now are just Body Slam, Shelter, Heavy Slam, and then the last slot is kind of up to you. I really like Life Dew because it can heal not just you, but, your fellow as well, right? So, like, I can heal Iron Hands, I can heal Gudra. Life Dew does not anymore have increased healing on grassy terrain, which I thought it used to. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought that was a thing, but you don't get increased healing on Life Dew grassy terrain, which would have been a really good synergy, but whatever. Talking about the switch outs, we have Gyarados as a switch out for ground moves. We have Gudra as a switch out for ice moves. We have Gudra as a switch out for steel moves, or Gyarados as a switch out for steel moves. We have Urshifu and Gyarados as switches out for water moves. Gudra as a switch out for water moves. Rillaboom. Nothing on this team is even weak against water, so it's kind of not worth talking about that, right? But extremely strong team. Definitely consider giving this one a try as well. All my teams are great for this month. I do hope that you guys appreciate that. Going on to, so this one. So this is the team that I used in OPL Week 4. And while I did lose to the Toxicroak team, it was really because I didn't stick to my game plan. Like, I won game 1 very well, and I tried switching it up, and ultimately we were not able to see success because of that. But this is just like the other team that we have with Landorus. Like, this is an extremely strong set of 6. You would definitely be possible to see this at a regional, and, you know, it would put on a lot of pressure, right? So, Chien-Pao, people have been finding is an amazing Pokemon right now, outside of the way we used to play it, where it's just like Dragonite Chien-Pao spam, right? Like, Chien-Pao is actually amazing in the Reg D format, just simply for being Chien-Pao, right? Like, it hits a lot of things for amazing damage, it is fast, and that's really important. And, you know, it also does synergize with Landorus and Iron Hands, right? So, like, you can increase their damage output and Chien-Pao's damage output, right? But, yeah, Chien-Pao just functions really well just by itself now. You know, we don't need Dragonite. I don't care. Screw Dragonite. No, Dragonite's our friend. We got love for him. But, talking about the team really quick, we do have a Citrus Berry Landorus, where with Water Terra we have Earthquake instead of the Terra Blast, and we're a slow, bulky Landorus. So, you know, you do want to be aware of that. The bulk is actually really nice. So, you got to just play towards that, and just be aware of when you can and can't click Earthquake, right? Like, we have a lot of protects on this team, so unlike some of my more cheesy teams, which are very, very good, but lack protects at times, so I have to lean into positioning. You know, Fluttermane has protect, Gholdengo has protect, Chien-Pao has protect. Like, we have protects on this team. And in general, a team that has at least 3 to 4 protects is an extremely solid team. A team, well, it has to be team built right? Like, you can't just say just because you have 3 or 4 protects you have a good team, right? Like, that's definitely not true. But 3 to 4 protects on a good team makes a good team even scarier. And at least 2 protects is good, you know. If you have at least 2 protects, that's kind of ideal. But yeah, so we have Landorus, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, Tornadus, Gholdengo, and Chien-Pao. Just a very good mix of Pokemon. Like, Gholdengo, it puts on such pressure because its ability is so good, its typing is so good, Make It Rain is amazing, and while we do have Fluttermane and Gholdengo, which at times is kind of like, are you sure? They function very differently, and they put on different threats, right? But Gholdengo, amazing switch out for ice moves, is amazing switch out for fairy moves. So, you know, you can take those hits that might be threatening something like Chien-Pao or Iron Hands or Landorus, you know? And so we have really good switch outs, we have really good leads, we have really good pressure. I'm sorry, I'm starting to ramble because it's like, this is just a good team, you know? Like, I don't know what else there's to, I don't know what to say about it. I want to move on to my last team. I want to keep this video under an hour for you guys, okay? So, last team, what's this? That one's not available, don't use that one. This is our last team. This is what I called the true balance team. So, this is just completely good stuff, you know? Choice Scarf Urshifu, Amoonguss, Iron Hands, Rillaboom, Heatran, Fluttermane. These 6 Pokemon are amazing right now. This is a balanced team, if I ever saw one, you know? We got the Water, Fire, Grass core. We've got Imprison. We've got Trick Room. We've got slow Pokemon to go good in our own Trick Room, even if we aren't just using it to stop other Trick Rooms, right? Like, this team, just like I've been talking about, actually utilizes Trick Room Fluttermane amazingly well. So, there's going to be times where your opponent tries to set up Tailwind, you set up Trick Room, you've got Amoonguss, you've got Heatran, you got Rillaboom, you got Iron Hands. What are they going to do? You know, you got all these amazing mid-tier or slightly under mid-tier speed Pokemon that have amazing damage output, amazing bulk, and amazing synergy with each other to switch in, switch out, you know, have the super effective hits and move coverage or resistance coverage that you need, you know? So, like, a balanced team like this just can get such good results if you play it carefully. And while looking at this team right now, I am seeing a lack of protects, especially because one of our protects is on a Mungus, which means we don't have Clear Smog. I definitely did build this team quite a while ago, so if I did want to think about some adjustments, I'm sure I could do that, but more than likely one of these balanced teams is going to end up getting switched off by the end of the month for something else. Like, I'm going to build one more Hyper Spice team by the end of the month, and it's probably going to end up replacing either this team or one of those Landorus teams, but that's really all I want to say, you know? So we'll end it on the super intense Spyro music from Buzz's Dungeon, my guy. And just thank you guys for supporting me. You know, like, the channel has finally started growing again, and that's a good feeling. You know, we're starting to get close to 750 subs. If we're lucky, we might even hit 1,000 by the end of the year still. You know, I'm hopeful. But we need the support of you guys, the community, in order to do things like that. So those of you who continue tuning into the videos, continue leaving comments, leaving likes, you know, tuning into the videos early, you know, giving us a subscribe if you're not. It really does make such a difference, and it really goes a long way to continuing to help this channel grow. And just thank you guys for that, for those of you who do support the channel. And I am going to try to keep making the improvements to make this channel even better, you know. When I get my new laptop, I haven't forgotten about you guys on that one, you know. I will let you know when I get my new laptop. Don't think it's just a random up in the air, when's it gonna happen type of thing, you know. I will let you guys know when it does finally happen. So, you know, just until then, don't think about it, you know. You will know once the new laptop is here. And when that happens, we'll have better sound quality. I'll be able to make better shorts for the VGC content, so we won't only have Pokemon card shorts, we'll have VGC shorts as well. And I'm going to make those adjustments. I'm going to keep trying to make the progress that this channel needs for me to feel like, you know, I'm doing what needs to be done to get the support, you know, and to feel like, you know, I deserve the subscribes, you know. I feel like I deserve the subscribes. I feel like I deserve the subscribes, but I also want to feel like I'm continuing to put in the effort that makes everything all the way, you know. So just again, thank you to those of you who are supporting, and do consider subscribing if you are not. You know, I don't want to hem on that too much, but I do want it to be you know, just remember, you know, the small content creators need your support. So, like, me, XC Zach, Gigawatts, Winter Night, Goodra VGC, not Random Gaming, sorry, Random Gaming doesn't do this anymore, we miss him, but Pokemon Advice, you know, you gotta support the small homies, including myself. So, thank you to those of you who do that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's try to end it on that. So, yeah, thank y'all, and have a good day.